This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good morning. I'm Holly Melnick, the Secretary Treasurer, and I will call the meeting to order at 9 a.m. I'm just going to do an appointment for the chair of the committee in Member Woodbury's absence, and Member Shearson being unavailable to chair. Do we have any appointments for the chair? Sorry, nominations. Go ahead, Member DeBreen.
I nominate Member Milne as chair for this meeting.
Member Milne, are you? Oh, I guess I need a seconder first. Sorry.
I'll second that.
Oh, okay, perfect. Member Milne, are you okay to chair the meeting?
Sure am. Yep.
Alrighty, I will turn it over to you then. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Holly. Well, good morning, everyone, and I'll call the meeting to order. My name is Brian Milne, and I'm the chairperson of the Committee of Adjustment, and I'll call this meeting to order at 9:01. The committee members include members of council. However, we sit at this table as the Committee of Adjustment and not as members of council. Our jurisdiction lies solely with matters of consents and minor variance applications. The secretary of this committee is Holly Melnick. This is a hearing to consider applications for minor variances and consents within the Township of Southgate and is held under the provisions of the Planning Act 1990. This hearing will be in accordance with the Provincial Planning Act, the Municipal Act, and the Township of Southgate official plan. Can I get a confirmation of the agenda, please? Someone care to move that? Member Martin, and Barb.
I'll second it. Oh, sorry.
So be it resolved that the committee confirm the agenda is presented. It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Is there any declaration of interest, pecuniary or otherwise, related to any item on today's agenda? Seeing none, if one should arise during the course of the meeting, feel free to declare it at that time. Adoption of the minutes. The motion is, be it resolved that the committee approve the minutes from the April 27th, 2022 Committee of Adjustment meeting as presented. Can I have a mover of that motion, please?
I'll move that, Brian.
Jim Frew, and seconded by Councillor Rice. Thank you. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you. So moving on to our first hearing, I'll ask that anyone speaking about an application to state their full name and address for the record. Please keep all remarks relevant to the consent or minor variance application before us, as the Committee of Adjustment has no jurisdiction on any other matters. Any material submitted to the committee for viewing will remain the property of the Committee of Adjustment and will be available for public viewing in the application file and may be placed online. Please direct all remarks and questions to the chairperson, myself, of the committee. This will enable the hearing to be conducted in an organized manner. So the first file this morning is A2-22, Orville Martin, Concession 1, Division 1, Lot 10, Geographic Township of Southgate. Let's see here. Holly, where do I find the purpose and effect? Page number, here we are. The variance is to vary the side yard setback to allow for the construction of a new home on the property. This will require varying section 6.2E, allowing for a reduction of the 20-meter exterior side yard setback to 16.36 meters. All other provisions of the bylaw shall apply. The effect is the approval of this application would provide relief from the bylaw to permit the construction of a new residence on a property. The relief will specifically reduce the exterior side yard setback from 20 meters to 16.36 meters, a reduction of 3.64 meters. Is there a request for deferral or withdrawal of an application? Anything of that nature, Holly? No? Okay. Seeing none, we can proceed. May I please have confirmation that the sign was posted? please.
Thank you. Yep, I can confirm that the sign was posted.
Thank you, Holly. Is the applicant in attendance? And if so, would they care to come forward to present their case? Clint?
The applicant is not in attendance. However, they did drop off a letter this morning that they would like us to read. So I can read it out if.
Sure, I think this would be an appropriate time to do that in the absence of the applicant.
Okay, so this is from Mr. Orville Martin. It says, on behalf of this minor variance, I, the owner Orville Martin, share my reasons for not wanting to move my house. For one, I'm building right on top of where the old farmhouse used to sit, and the outside wall of the new house is actually a couple feet further away from the road than what the old house used to be. For two, for the sake of my new wife to come, Lord willing, June 22nd, 2022, I choose not to make the house closer to my new dairy barn than necessary, as the barn is on the opposite side of the house, and for the sake of keeping distance from barn odors. Three, when I asked for a permit, the township approved the old weeping bed to be okay, and the well sits on the roadside of the house, which both fit nice in place to where I want the new house to sit. Four, the landscape behind the house on the barn side really hangs off, as there is no large flat lawn or field towards the south. Five, we put a new transformer pole in 5 years ago, and that one would be placed right in the middle of our large favorite dining room window towards the Highway 6. If we have the house 12 feet further south towards the barn, and I do not want to look at the pole all the time. That would be an eyesore to me, because it would be very close to the big window. Also, I requested the planner to come and look at my site and explain to him why my reasons for not wanting to move it, but he wasn't able to come. We had the go-ahead from the township and had a permit and had a hole dug out and the footing prepped when the inspector shut us down. To my mistake, I was innocent to where the property line pinpoint actually was, and that's why we got into the 20-meter distance that is required to keep away from. We're required to keep away from. We have been ready since March to fly at construction as soon as we can. And that's that.
Thank you, Clint. So the next item actually is, Clint, you present your report and review all comments received, please.
Thank you. I'll start with my report, just to give you a bit of an overview. So this property is approximately 50 acres, and it's located on Highway 6 and Southgate Road 22. As you read in the notice, the approval of the application would provide relief from the bylaw to permit the construction of a new residence on the property. The relief will specifically reduce the exterior side yard setback from 20 meters to 16.36 meters, which is a reduction of 3.64 meters, or approximately 11 feet, give or take. And the specific bylaw provision is section 6.2E. So the applicant received a permit to construct a home on the property early in the new year. On the plan that they submitted with the permit, it was indicated that the side yard setback was 20 meters, and the permit was approved on that basis. When the building inspector, however, was out for an inspection, the actual distance from the road was, as we noted, 16.36 meters. And therefore, the stop work order was issued, and here we sit. So at that time, the applicant contacted the planning department and indicated they wanted a minor variance to continue with their proposed house. At that time, I advised that with 50 acres, there is sufficient area in 50 acres to meet the bylaw requirement. So you move 10 feet one way, you don't necessarily have to move in that exact same spot. You can move it over and then down, what have you, further away from the barn. So we advise them to do their best to try and comply with the bylaw, because that makes it a whole lot easier for everyone, and you can be away and start building. So that was my initial suggestion to them. The applicants, however, didn't want to do that, so they submitted their minor variance for the reduction of this side yard setback. So in that way, it's been circulated as according to the Planning Act, and we have comments that have been received. The first comment is from the Public Works, and they indicate it's a rural gravel road standard and a safe access can be provided. And the entrance may require improvements depending on where it ends up ultimately. The Ministry of Transportation has provided comments and indicate that MTO permits are required before any demolition, grading, construction, or alteration to the site commences. So it's my understanding that they do not have any of those at the present time, but I'm okay to stand corrected if that is the case. An MTO building and land use permit will be required for the construction of the proposed residence. The permit will also define access to the property. All access must be off of Southgate Road 22. MTO will not permit access directly onto Highway 6. The SVCA indicate that the application is acceptable to the SVCA staff. The Historic Saugeen Métis have no objections. The Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, Son, indicate that they have no concerns. The County of Grey indicate that provided positive comments are received from the MTO. County staff have no concerns or comments. We have one written comment received from a member of the public. The Matthew Brothers Farms indicate that they have no concern or objections to the variance. I'm going to assume that's a neighboring farm. And that's all of the comments that I've received. So those are actually in my planning report. So just in continuing on, when we talk about minor variances, we talk about the 4 tests that are required under the Planning Act. And if a variance can meet those 4 tests, then they can proceed. So the first test in section 45(1) of the Planning Act is the variance must be minor in nature. So a reduction of a side yard setback from 20 meters to 16.36 meters, it's 3.6 meters or approximately 11 feet. That can be considered minor in the grand scheme of things. It's important to note that the applicant could meet the requirements of the bylaw. However, the variance is still considered minor in this instance. The second one is that it must be desirable and appropriate development or use of the land, building, or structure. So the establishment of a residence on a farm property is a perfectly acceptable use for the property, and we have no objections to the nature of that, and therefore it would meet that test. So the third test then is it has to maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan. These are agricultural lands. There's a small section of rural along the highway frontage. However, the majority is agricultural. And the agricultural designation generally permits farmsteads or residences to be located on lots of records. So it would appear to comply with the intent of the official plan. The official plan doesn't really speak to side yard setbacks, etc. So the last one is it has to maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. So the intent of an exterior yard setback is to provide a clear line of sight along the public roadways and separate the residential use from the roadway and the noise and dangers that may result from the roadway. That's the purpose of an exterior setback. So the applicant is suggesting that the house is further setback than the original house that was removed and that the new house is more in keeping with the bylaw and setback. This is true. However, they received a permit based on the incorrect information and would not have received their permit if the correct distance was shown on their plans. And that's why we're here. The applicant has provided other reasoning, and I read that out to you, for not setting back the house further, being that the land slopes towards the back, and it would mean adding fill, etc. And the house would be closer to the livestock barn than preferred. I think he also mentioned that wasn't in my report here about a pole that he had installed for a transformer pole that would be too close to his house then. These reasons, however, in my opinion, they don't meet the intent of the bylaw, which is to address the setback from the road. I understand that he wants to build in that location. However, as I said it right at the initial outset, he has 50 acres to choose from here, and he's choosing it in that spot. He mentioned that he wanted to use the old septic system. Well, if he were to move the house a little bit, you can add on to the septic system to still be able to use that. The same goes with the well, for that matter. And it's still not a justification for not complying with the bylaw. If he was rebuilding the house, that would be a different story, because the house is considered to be an existing house, but he leveled it to the ground and is starting over. So if you're starting over, you can put it anywhere. So that, in my opinion, is why I don't feel it meets the intent of the zoning bylaw, and therefore it wouldn't pass that test. So then, just to summarize then, the comments received to date support the proposal, but the application does not meet the 4 tests required by the Planning Act, and based on that, it's recommended that the application be refused. However, provided that there are no negative comments received from members of the public and the committee can satisfy themselves that the application can meet the 4 tests, the application can be approved. Okay.
That's your report, Clint?
That's my report.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Are there any questions from committee members? Barb.
Through you, Chair Milne. Thank you, Clinton, and thank you to our Chief Building Official for responding to my initial questions. I did have another question about why is the MTO requiring permits if they have no entrance onto Highway 6?
Because anywhere within 400 meters of the highway road allowance they have a regulated area, basically, that they require permits for.
Okay. More provincial oversight. I get it. Okay. The other thing that, as a result of you answering my questions, and your explanation today, it does appear that it is an improvement over where the existing house was. So it's less of a reduction in a setback than previous. And there are a number of reasons to support the application. Is there anything that in your mind that raises a red flag? Because it just seems, I mean, you've said on the one hand it doesn't meet the 4 tests, but it could be supported.
Well, this is a case where I can't say it meets policy when it doesn't. Okay.
Right.
And that's my opinion. People are allowed to disagree with that, and I'm totally okay with that.
Okay.
Okay. That's
Yep.
all I can say on that.
Thank you. Well, regardless, Chair Milne, regardless of the outcome, I do wish Mr. Martin a lovely wedding and happy life.
Well, that's good. That's good. So, Clint, gracious as always. Any questions from any other members of the committee? Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Milne, Clinton, they don't have anything from the MTO yet then? Is that what you said? Any permits? And if they don't get that...
That's my understanding. Bev Fisher might know differently because he would have the building file. However, I don't believe he's even entertained that idea yet, which he's probably going to be in for a bit of a shock for.
Yeah, well, that was my point. If the MTO has that 400 meters you mentioned, does that permit supersede what he's trying to do anyway with another permit or the actual variance?
I'll let Bev answer that.
I was just going to say, Bev, do you want to have a go at that, please?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, this is where through the chair, Mr. Milne there. This is, excuse me. This is where I have to eat a little crow and say this permit was issued without a proper MTO approval. So the MTO does override the building permit. They have to get permits from them first. So if the MTO was not to give them a permit, we would cancel this permit and revoke it, and they would have to start again. Personal opinion, I believe it's far enough off the highway, doesn't enter it onto the highway. My experience would say the MTO will issue a permit, maybe with a few restrictions, but probably issue a permit. Although I'm not an MTO enforcement officer, so I should not be speaking for them.
And I think we can all agree that MTO did not invent bureaucracy, but they are certainly perpetuating it. In any case, thank you, Bev, for that answer. Martin, anything else?
No, that was the only thing I was wondering about, because on page 21, general comments from the letter they sent you, it says MTO looks forward to the advancement of this development, and we anticipate receiving additional details for review and comment as the project progresses. So does that kind of mean that they are looking at it and having the permit?
I would say they're aware. They've been made aware of it now as a result of this minor variance circulation, okay. And they're making them aware that they need to submit things.
Right. Okay, thank you. Any other Bev, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that this existing driveway is, I would say, looking at the map, I have not measured it, but looking at a GPS map, it is approximately halfway back a 100-acre farm, so 666 feet. So it's approximately 333 feet away from the highway. It is a good distance. It's still within their 400 feet, but it's a good distance back.
Yeah, thank you. Any other committee members have questions?
Jason here, Brian.
Go ahead, Jason.
I guess more just a comment in lieu of what Bev said. Thinking the MTO would probably go along with it. I don't have a problem with it. I know it's just it's pretty minor to me, but like you said about the bureaucracy, I'd like to see. I guess we'd never change that, but why they have jurisdiction that far down the road? But anyway, it's just such a minor thing. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Barb, you had your hand up.
So just to clarify then, if MTO does not provide the permit, this whole exercise has been for naught, other than if they move it somewhere else. Bev's got his hand up.
I think as Bev indicated, it'd have to start all over again, but Bev, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that comment again. Yes, if the MTO does not issue a permit for this, they would have to move 400 meters back from the highway and apply for a permit. Again, we would revoke the existing permit.
I dare say though, because the barn, I think it was built certainly within the last 10 years, maybe the last 5 years, MTO obviously approved that building to be sited where it is. So I suspect the house would be approved where it is, distance wise, I mean, but in any case, that's their decision, not ours. Ours is the report that's in front of us. Any other questions from committee members? Discussion. Okay,
One more, Brian, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, by all means, go ahead, Jason, please.
I guess it's to Bev. I'm just curious. When we issued, or the township issued a building permit, would they not have to have looked into that, whether the MTO approval was already there? Just curious, or am I missing something?
Go ahead, Bev.
I have to admit, that was an oversight on our part. We looked at the site plan, didn't ask for that measurement off the highway. It looked to us at the time to be back far enough. It's close, but it's probably within that 400, and we should have checked, but we did not. So we've made an error there, and hopefully it can be rectified. If not, we'll have to rectify it.
Thanks, Bev.
No, that's fine. Just wondered. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Jason. Barb, go ahead.
Well, in fairness, there was a house there originally. So I mean, if they had just expanded upon it, or yeah. If you're looking for a decision, Chair Milne, I would move to support.
Well, I appreciate that, but just not quite yet. Bev, go ahead. You had your hand up.
I was just going to say, I believe Clinton has mentioned that if they were to build on the existing footprint, then there would be no issue at all. They would be allowed to do that. They would still require an MTO permit, but it would be pretty well grandfathered right in because it was existing.
Okay, thank you, Bev. Is that all the questions for committee members for now? There'll be another opportunity in a minute here. Okay, not seeing any. Is there any members of the public in attendance that would like to speak in support of this application? Not seeing any. Are there any others of the public in attendance that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, not seeing any. I'll ask committee members one further time if there's any questions remaining. Just one question from the chair, if I might, and I guess I would direct this to Bev. I presume a road widening has been taken in the past. Would that be a correct assumption there? Because that road has been improved, I believe. Do you know that, Bev? Or maybe Clint knows.
I would have to pass that to somebody much wiser than I, Mr. Milne. I don't believe Jim is in attention.
No.
I
know from the roads. Yeah. I know from the roads report that a widening was not required, so I'm assuming that's because a road widening has taken place in the past. So we'll go with that.
Clint, that would be my assumption. That would be my assumption as well.
Okay, so the more of us that make the same assumption means that it must be true. Okay, good. Barb has moved that we grant the application. Is there a seconder for that motion? Jim Frew seconds that motion. Any further discussion? Anyone in opposition? Or Madam Clerk or Chair? Yeah, we'll call you the clerk for today for this committee. Holly, do we need to take a recorded vote on this, or do we just ask for opposition?
Just ask for opposition. If there is any at that time, we'll take a vote, but currently we are okay.
Excellent. Thank you for the clarification.
She's
So
the
is anyone opposed
Secretary-Treasurer.
to Secretary Treasurer? Okay, there you go. That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Clint. Thank you. Although clerk sounds very, well, it is very, anyway, any opposition to the motion on the floor? Not seeing any, I'll declare that carried, and the application is approved. Thank you very much. So moving on to the next one is A3-22. That is for Matt and Amanda Neville's Plan 480, Block Part Lot 4, RP, Geographic Village of Dundalk. Okay, now I gotta scroll ahead. Oh, keep scrolling. There it is. Okay. Is there, oh, yes, the purpose and effect. Purpose and effect. Here we go. The purpose of this variance application is to vary the rear yard setback to allow for an addition and garage onto the existing residence. Section 9.2H will be reduce the rear yard setback requirement from 7.6 meters to 3.61 meters. All other provisions of the bylaw shall apply. The effect is the approval of this application will provide relief from the bylaw to permit the construction of an addition to the house and a new garage. The relief will, sorry about that. The relief will specifically reduce the rear yard setback for the structure from 7.6 meters to 3.61 meters. Is there a request for deferral or withdrawal of the application? The Secretary Treasurer indicates there is not. Got it right that time. May I please have confirmation that the sign was posted?
Yep, I can confirm that the sign was posted and proper notice was given.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Is the applicant in attendance? And if so, would they care to come forward to present their case? Not hearing one. I will now ask Planner Clint Stredwick to review all the comments received and present his staff report. Clinton.
Thank you, Chair Mill. So this is a property at 97 Victoria Street, and it also has frontage on Rose Lane, which is where they're proposing to get an access for a new garage. That's the whole reason for this this application. So they're gonna knock down a small portion of the back of the house and then build an addition and then garage attachment to that, and it will extend further, I guess, south than the current section is there, and therefore they were asking for relief from the bylaw. So the comments received, the Public Works indicate it falls within the wellhead protection area B, which is applicable to dense non-aqueous phase liquids, and it's managed by outreach and education programs. So no action is required at this time. Enbridge Gas has no concerns with the subject application other than that they have service lines in the area which may or may not be affected by the development, and any relocation of those service lines would be at the owner's expense. The historic Saugeen Métis have no objections to the proposal, and the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, San, indicate that they have no concern on this application. County of Grey indicate that provided the development is accommodated on existing municipal services, the county has no concerns, which it is. Hydro One has no comment or concern at this time. And I have not received any written comments or verbal comments as of yet, but there are a few people online here. So I went through the 4 tests similarly to the previous application, looking at whether the variance is minor in nature. It's my belief that it is minor in nature, that it's an appropriate use of the land. Certainly, in addition to a house and a garage, is an appropriate use for a residential lot. Meets the intent of the official plan. I believe it's consistent with the official plan, and that it meets the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. In this instance, we're dealing with a rear yard setback, and they're losing some what we would call amenity space, which is just area to move around and play. But they do have quite a bit more space in other areas of the lot that they can use. It looks like their interior side yard is actually a nice area there for them to recreate and be outside. So in that case, I think it still meets the intent of the bylaw, and that I'm recommending it be approved.
Thank you, Clint. Any questions from committee members on this file? Barb, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, so this, I've asked Holly, she's looking for an aerial shot of the property. This is a property that had a severance some time ago, which reduced the lot size and created an additional lot. And I'm looking at the diagram, and it says to be removed. Is that the shed that's there, or the existing garage, or is that an attached structure that's being removed and replaced to the house?
Clinton?
Maybe Holly could put that drawing up again for me that was there. You took it down too soon.
She's looking for an aerial shot as well.
There we go. So I can't really point. I don't have, because Holly's the presenter, but there's sort of 2 squares, 2 red squares, I'll call them. There, one is the proposed garage, and then there's another one that says a proposed addition. So underneath that proposed addition parcel is a section of the house that is being removed and replaced. It's the garage that we're actually requiring the variance for and needing the extra space.
Okay, so thank you. And in the reduction is actually a good 50% when you look at the size of the setback requirement, and then it's reducing it almost 4 meters. What is the use of the proposed addition? Is it going to be another secondary dwelling? Is it is it possible that they could put the garage to the house and put the addition on top? It's a significant historic house now, I would imagine. And my other question would be, by reducing the side yard setback to 3.6 meters, given that they did sever a lot previously, is that going to create a restriction for severed parcel in previous files. I guess I don't even know if we can even consider that, but does it create a problem for development on the adjacent lot? Lots of questions. Sorry, Clint.
Okay, so first thing I'll caution on is converting these numbers to percentages is a very it's a tricky. Planners do it all the time at the Ontario Municipal Board, but it's a very, the board sort of catches on that it's kind of a tricky thing, that it's like manipulating statistics where when you say it's 3 meters, it's 3 meters. And when you say it's 50%, it's 50%, right? But you have to just look at the whole context of it. And so just looking at it as a percentage, in my opinion, is not the right way to go about doing it, particularly in this case. You can see on this drawing, they have a huge front yard and they have a reasonable side yard there, interior side yard, that there's ample room there to use and recreate in. Your second question with respect to will it impose any development restrictions on the neighboring lot to the south that was created, that answer is no, it won't. Okay. It won't create any restrictions with respect to development on that lot at all. And did you have another one there? Oh, you did.
I think that's it.
No, you have one more about the use. So it's my understanding, it's sort of like a mudroom kind of thing, if I recall, based on the drawings, and it's sort of a connector to the house and the garage.
Thanks,
okay,
Clint.
I could not find that on the diagram, but thank you for clarifying that it's an entry mudroom, kind of, not a secondary suite.
Bev, I see you've turned your camera on. Did you have something to add there?
Through the chair, I was just going to add for future development, the old Ontario Building Code has what we call limiting distances. So for a building being built close to the property line, there are more stringent restrictions, such as having to build out of non-combustible materials. In other words, say brick exterior instead of vinyl. But if you were to walk through or drive through any of our subdivisions, you will notice homes are being built within 2 feet of the property line, 0.5 meter, 0.6 meters, I believe it is. So it does make it maybe a little bit more costly, but there's still development can occur.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions on this file from committee members? Jim Frew. You are muted, sir.
We'll soon start that. The black and white drawing has some printing on it. It says existing driveway. When we see the aerial photograph, I don't see an existing driveway. Will they have to apply for a driveway entrance?
Clinton?
It was sort of my understanding that that's where they parked. I honestly don't know if they, because I don't believe there's any ditch on that side of the road. So I think they just pulled in onto, they graveled over an area of their lawn and turned that into their driveway. Whether they had a permit to do that or not, I wouldn't say. I don't know. But if it is requiring a new permit, then obviously they'd have to get one. That's without Jim here, I can't really comment more on that issue.
Well, we'll leave that up to Jim.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Thanks, Clinton. Any other questions from the committee on this file? Okay, not seeing any. Are there any members of the public in attendance that would like to speak in support of this application? Hearing none, are there any members of the public in attendance who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Not hearing any, I'll ask committee members one further time if there is any more questions or discussion. Okay, not seeing any. Would someone care to move?
Make a motion to accept it?
Okay, thank you, Mike. Is there a seconder for that motion to approve? Martin, thank you. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? Not hearing any, that is carried. Thank you. That is approved. The next file then is for Ted and Francis Atchison. Is B1-22, Concession 3, Southwest Toronto, Sydenham Road, Lot 211 to 213, Geographic Township of Croton. Okay, I got a file. Fly forward and find the, oh, see that. Nope. There it is. The purpose of this application is to sever the 30.8 acre parcel that has been separated from the remaining parcel by the old CP rail trail from the remaining 143 acres of the farm. The severed lot will be 30.8 acres with frontage on Southgate Side Road 75 and Southgate Road 24. The retained lot will be 143 acres with frontage on Southgate Road 24. The effect of this application would be to create two parcels, one farm-sized parcel and one small farm-sized parcel. Has there been a request for a deferral or withdrawal of the application?
No, there has not been.
There has not been, so we may proceed. Can I have clarification or confirmation that the sign was posted as required?
Thank you. Yep, I can confirm that the sign was posted and proper notice was given.
Thank you so much, Holly. Is the applicant in attendance, and if so, would they care to come forward to present their case? Not hearing anyone, I'll now ask Planner Clint Stredwick to review all the comments received and present his staff report. Clinton.
Thank you, Chair Milne. This is it's a large farm parcel that's been split by the rail trail, and there is some confusion on whether or not these lands are actually separated or not, as you'll see in the comments here. So in the comments we've received, Bell Canada has no concerns. The Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority finds the application acceptable. The historic Saugeen Métis have no objection or opposition to the proposal. The Public Works Department indicate that a 3-meter road widening is required for the severed and retained lots along Southgate Road 24 and Southgate Side Road 75, as per our standard policy. The County of Grey, the staff would note that there appears to be 2 separate pins for the subject lands, and they may already be legally conveyable as separate parcels. The subject consent application may not be required to formally establish this severance request. Staff recommend follow-up be completed with a lawyer. The county would also indicate that positive comments should be received from the Conservation Authority. So that's all of the comments we've received. So I'll just continue on with my staff report.
Please.
The comments received are all positive comments, and provided there are no negative ones received at the public, we can proceed subject to any requested conditions that may have been noted above. With respect to the county comments, we don't have access to the pins, like we don't check pin numbers for properties. There is only one roll number for the property on both sides of the road, the rail trail, and both sides have the same legal description. So based on the information we have, it looks like they're still together, but certainly that's something we would advise them to check. It doesn't harm anything or do anything if we continue with this process, but that's certainly something they may want to check out. So then carrying on through the provincial policy statements, the application is consistent with the provincial policy. With respect to the County of Grey official plan, they've indicated in their comments that their lands are rural and hazard lands on Schedule A of the Grey County official plan, and it would permit the severance. The Township of Southgate official plan, the current one, not the adopted one, requires a maximum of one consent is permitted in the rural area, provided the lot is a minimum of 40 hectares and no lot creation has been provided for in the past. The proposal would meet that condition. With respect to MDS, it would not be an issue in this case based on the review of the application. And the SPCA have also reviewed the application. They have no objection to it from a hazard lands perspective. So we're not creating a lot that's totally in a floodplain. The zoning of the property is currently A1 in environmental protection. And the severed parcel would meet the minimum parcel size requirements of the A1 zone, being 40 hectares and 200 meters of frontage, while the retained lots will require a zoning amendment to recognize the reduced lot area. There are no financial implications to the township with respect to this proposal, and therefore, based on that, I'm recommending it be approved.
Thank you, Clinton. Any questions from committee members?
Brian, Michael?
Go ahead, Mike.
Just kind of wondering, in this application, if there is pins that is there currently that we don't need to go ahead with this, they already are two separate lots, then they wouldn't have to give us the road frontage. We wouldn't have to widen either. So wouldn't it be in their best interest to verify that first before we approve?
Well, through the chair, a consent isn't final until it's met all of the conditions and it's registered. So we can approve it, and if they don't do all of the requirements, it lapses. But if they can go, so what I would suggest to the applicant now is he go and talk to the lawyer and do the title search to make sure that, hey, yes, in fact, he can do that. And then you're right, he doesn't have to worry about that at that time. But if it turned out that, yes, he did have to do that, and we didn't do anything today, we would have to go back and start the process all over again, which is why I'm saying we should just approve it. And then he either meets those conditions or he finds out through his lawyer that he doesn't need to meet those conditions because he can already convey the lot separately.
Okay, Mike?
Okay, so, I'm just verifying that, yeah, it's better just to put all our ducks in one row. We can get it going. Let's make it as quick as possible, that's for sure.
Yep, good question. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Clinton. Any other questions from community members? Martin.
Thank you, Chair Milne. Clinton, this might seem a silly question, but with the all CPR line, who actually owns that? And is there any easements that the owner should be aware of? Like, just if he's going to do a check on the pins, is there something that could be a problem with?
Well, the CP rail line is supposedly owned by the County of Grey.
Not supposedly, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the way from Dundalk all the way up to Owen Sound. So and that's I'll call it the major recreational corridor to connect the south end to the north end. Who knows, in a few years' time, I might be riding my bike down there. As far as the easements and whatnot, the county in their comments did note that if there's going to be any crossing over of the trail to get from one property to the other, they wouldn't support that, and you'd have to get easements and that sort of thing.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks,
Yep.
Clinton. Any other questions from committee members? Just from the chair, an observation, it's interesting that the rail trail bisects this property. So the two pieces, the severed and the retained, do not touch, and yet they're considered one property.
And this is where the confusion is.
Yeah, interesting paradox. So anyway, that's that issue isn't for us to solve here today. Thank you, Clinton, for all your comments. Are there any members of the public in attendance who would like to speak in support of this application? Hearing none, are there any members of the public who would like to speak in opposition to this application? One more time for committee members, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, if someone would like to move, we either grant or refuse, that would be good. Barb?
I move we grant.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll second it.
Michael.
Okay, thank you, Martin. So the motion is to be resolved that the Committee of Adjustment receive the report for information, the severance be approved with the following conditions. The survey is provided, that all outstanding fees and charges are paid, that a zoning bylaw amendment is completed to recognize the reduced lot area of the retained parcel, and that a 3-meter road widening be provided if one has not been provided for in the past alongside Southgate Road 24 and Southgate Side Road 75. And I believe they have 1 year. Is that right, Clinton, to satisfy those conditions? 2 years. 2 years to satisfy those conditions. Thank you very much. So moving along then to the next file, which is B2-22, Donald and Catherine Lawrence, Concession 2, Part Lot 37 and 38, Geographic Township of Egremont. And the purpose and effect of the application. We're dealing lots with old rail lines today. The purpose of the application is to sever a small 1.26 hectare parcel of land and add it to the neighboring farm. The retained lot will be 40.9 hectares, that too, parcel of land and add it to the neighboring farm. The retained lot will be 40.9 hectares. Is that correct, Holly? Because it doesn't indicate there. I'm going to say hectares. As in size and continue to have frontage on Gray Road 109. The effect of this application would be to correct a parcel issue where an old rail trail was owned by one property but crossed over another. No new developable parcels will be created by the granting of this lot addition. Has there been a request or for a deferral or withdrawal of the application? No, there has not. Thank you. And can I have clarification that the sign was posted?
Yep, I can confirm the sign was posted and proper notice was given.
Excellent. Thank you, Holly. Is the applicant in attendance? And if so, would they care to come forward to present their case? I see Mr. Davison on the line. Perhaps, Ron, would you like to clarify what's going on here, please?
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. This is a very small lot line adjustment. And let me start by saying I made a small error. I moved the, yes, I know you're all shocked. I moved the decimal point too far. We're not talking about 1.25 hectares of land. It should have been 0.125, or it's actually 0.126 hectares. So it's a considerably less. What I'm saying, folks, is it's 1,260 square meters, which is about a third of an acre. So it's a very small amount of land. So as you can see in front of you with that red triangular wedge, It's an odd situation. That red wedge, if you will, belongs to Lance, and it cuts in front of the Martins property, as you can see. Thank you for that. And so they simply want to square off the two properties. So it is a relatively very, very straightforward, dare I say, no-brainer of an application. So the application, it conforms with the local official plan, the county official plan. Doesn't require a zoning bylaw amendment. Very, very straightforward. The clients, though, are a little bit concerned. The county last week indicated, and I understand they do this, they want road widening. But in this particular case, that's a rather big request given what is being asked for. Just to put things in perspective, and I'll throw some numbers around. So the Lances are trying to give up and convey to the Martins 1,260 square meters. But if the county takes road widening, of that 1,260 square meters, the county will end up with 520 square meters, which is about 42% of the severed parcel. On top of that, not only do they want road widening for that severed parcel, but they also want road widening for the balance of the Lance property. And that would mean that the Lances have to give up another 1,120 square meters of their own farm. So at the end of the day, and I'm sorry I've thrown lots of numbers around, the Martins end up with 740 square meters at the end of the day, instead of what you see in front of you in that red triangular wedge. The county gets 1,640 square meters, and the Lances themselves from their own farm have to give up 1,120 square meters. So that's a tough pill to swallow if you're paying for this. I mean, it's expensive enough for just for this application, for this small amount of land to be conveyed. There's the application fees, surveying fees, legal fees, my fees. But now if they're only going to end up with the Martins end up with only about 60% of that very small triangular wedge, and then the Lances themselves have to give up land, it does beg the question, is it worth their while? I don't do this very often, but I'm stepping out of character here by requesting that you don't include that recommendation in your decision sheet in your decision sheet from the county. I haven't spoken with the Lances and Martins directly. I've been dealing with their lawyer, and he's aware of these, and he was somewhat surprised and said, he felt this was unfair. And it probably is in this case, given the circumstances. If you do impose this condition, I honestly don't know if they'll finalize it. As you heard a few minutes ago, they've got 2 years to meet the conditions. One option is, of course, is to meet those conditions and give the county their land, if in fact the township imposes that condition. Or the other one is to simply just let it fall to the wayside. Just to be quite frank, I don't know if it's worth their while now. So that's it for my presentation. I would ask the committee members to give serious consideration to what the county is asking, and ask yourselves, I guess, is that really fair and reasonable in this particular situation? Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Ron, and always, as always, thanks for your glowing endorsement of the county. So, moving right along, Clint, any comments from the public in your report, please?
Okay. I've received no comments from the public as of today. The comments from, where are we here? Bell Canada, we have no concerns. Enbridge, formerly Union Gas, has no concerns. SPCA indicate the proposal is acceptable. The Historic Saugeen Métis have no objection. The Saugeen Ojibwe Nation have no concern. Public Works Department indicates that it is Grey County jurisdiction, and there is frontage on Grey Road 109. The County of Grey staff have reviewed, transportation staff, let's be clear, have reviewed the subject application and have indicated the following comments. Transportation Services have no objection to the severance. However, they want a 17-foot road widening on the severed and retained portions. The county is also interested in purchasing the small triangle parcel, approximately 2.5 meters by 12.0 meters, owned by Mr. Martin. This parcel would be within the required widening as per the land acquisition policy. The county is willing to offer $1,000 and look after the transfer and legal costs. So you can see on the diagram in front of you, there's a little teeny tiny blue triangle right there. That's the one they're going to pay $1,000 for, because it doesn't actually front onto the road, and therefore, and it's also the lands to be added to, and they have no claim on that to request a widening, which also means that the lands behind that, they wouldn't have a claim on it as well. It's only when it fronts along the road that they can ask for it in an application. So basically, the county comments summarized then, provided the above comments from County Transportation Services can be addressed, county staff have no further concerns with the proposal. So I've reviewed it and Ron's application letter summarizing all of the policy and whatnot, and I agree with what Ron has submitted. And essentially, the proposal meets the policy in terms of the intent of the official plans and whatnot. And he's noted the property is currently zoned A2, and the severance to add the 0.126 hectares parcel of land to the neighboring property. The retained lot will still meet the minimum zoning requirements, and therefore a zoning amendment would not be required. So based on that, we're recommending that the application be considered. It's customary, we do include the county comments in our conditions so that a survey is provided, that outstanding fees and charges are paid. And then the third one is that the road widening be considered by the County of Grey. However, as Ron stated, there may be grounds for not including that one, and I'll leave that for the committee to debate and discuss.
Thank you, Clint. But before I go to questions, perhaps just for clarification on your recommendation, are you recommending that the third condition remain there as it relates to the county road widening, or are you recommending that be removed?
As I said, to sort of maintain good relations with the county, we typically include their comments in that, and that's what is in my recommendation to have the 3-meter widening there. However, Ron is suggesting we don't do that. So, and he's put forward some good reasons. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions from committee members for either Clint or Ron? Barb, go ahead.
This is, I feel like we're in the middle, and the county is still negotiating the purchase of like a wee sliver of pie, and which I'm not sure. And wouldn't it be the county that can waive the road widening? Do we even have jurisdiction to waive that?
Clinton?
We can not include their request. They may not like that, but we are the approval authority for consents. So we have the right to approve whatever we want in there.
Oh. And
they may appeal it. They may appeal it to request that we add that back in. So then there's more work for Ron to do.
Would it make better sense to, I mean, we don't want to delay, the process, but if they're in discussions with the county, would it not make sense to defer the decision pending the outcome of the property owner's decision to proceed or not proceed? And are there any exceptions to the rule when it's just a lot line adjustment? Like, it's not like they're severing an entire section of a part. Like, they're adjusting the boundaries.
Clint?
Through the chair. There's generally not too many exceptions with respect to road widening. I will say that I kind of agree with you in the sense that until they figure out what that little tiny sliver, what if Mr. Martin doesn't want to sell it? Then you've given away, it certainly is going to make their road widening a little awkward, because anything directly behind that they can't ask for, technically. So they're going to get a 5-meter road widening up to that triangle, and then they're going to stop for that little triangle bit, and then they're going to get another 5 meters along the other side. So it's not going to be a full road widening if Mr. Martin doesn't agree. So it would actually, in my opinion, would make matters worse. But yeah. So there is some unfinished business there, I think. Maybe Ron might want to weigh in on that.
Ron, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, if obviously preferred in this instance if it wasn't put in there. Like Mr. Chair, I think you're making just kind of a joke when you said I was supporting the county earlier. I always, like 99.9% of the time, I do understand what they're getting at, and I've been involved in applications before for road widening, but usually where there's something more substantial at stake. Like, I mean, I think, I can't speak for you folks, but myself, if I'm looking at this, and this isn't me just blowing smoke. If you look at this, you'd say, why would we ever finalize this severance? It's just, we're getting so little land. And don't put this in minutes, but you might as well just give it all to the county. Like, why would the Martins want to pay for the whole shooting match and only end up with a very, very small amount of land? It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that's their position. I truly haven't spoken with them, just their lawyer.
Right. Thank you, Ron. Clinton, go ahead.
Based on the numbers that I'm just looking here that Ron quoted to us, by the time the county takes the lands off of the Lance property, as well as off of this property here, the county actually has more land than the original severance proposed. So they're taking more land than what the size of the actual severance was to add. So the whole severance was, I think, 1260 meters squared. By the time it's all said and done, the county's going to own more than that when you take in the Lance property as well as the Martin property.
Right. Thank you, Clint. And really, in all practicalities, I mean, really, this is a paper exercise in road widening, because the road has already been improved. It's been in existence in its present form for many, many years. So, I mean, it really makes no difference on the ground whether the county has that 17 feet or whatever they're proposing to take. So, without trying to sway the committee, I would suggest we remove that third condition, but that's entirely up to the committee.
No.
Any further questions from the committee members? And I guess further to my final comment there, that if we did remove that third request, if the county felt very strongly about it, as Clinton rightly pointed out, they'll appeal it, and we'll find out how bad they do want the severance or the road widening. So, yeah. That's just a suggestion. Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, if the committee decides to make a decision and remove condition number 3, I will follow up this afternoon or this morning, I guess, with the county, and I will provide them a reasoning as to not why you made that decision, but why I made that recommendation to your committee or that request to your committee, and throw the numbers out at them. And I guess in fairness, I made a mistake with the amount of land, and maybe they had thought that, well, if they take, a 5.2 meter wide road widening off of a 1.2 hectare parcel of land, maybe it's not a big deal. But maybe when I present the numbers to them, the correct numbers, though, they'll realize that, it's not. There's no benefit to the applicants if that road widening is taken. No benefit in terms of finalizing the consent. So I will do that. I will get a hold of the county for what that's worth.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Any further? Martin, go ahead.
Just a comment. I totally agree with you, Brian and Ron. There's no point in doing it if they're going to take all that land for the road. So I would second the motion, I guess, to remove item 3.
Well, we haven't had a mover yet, but if you'd like to.
Yeah, but I concur with you about that. So.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Any further questions by committee members? Okay, not hearing any, I'll ask if there's any members of the public in attendance that would like to speak in support of this application. Not hearing any, are there any members of the public in attendance that would like to speak in opposition to this application? So one final time, I'll ask the committee if there's any further questions or discussion required. Not hearing any, I'll ask if someone would like to move the recommendation as it is, or whether they would like to move it a different way. Martin?
I'd like to move it with the removal of said item 3 about the road allowance.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that motion? Barb, thank you. So the motion is, be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment receives staff report PL 2022-036 for information, and that the severance be approved with the following conditions: that a survey is provided and that all outstanding fees and charges are paid. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed to that motion? Not seeing any opposition, I'll declare that carried. Thank you very much. So we look forward to your response, or what the county responds to your query, Ron. And I dare say that you're right. Once they figure out that the numbers are the numbers, they'll see it in a different light.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. So being as the agenda is complete, I want to thank all members of the committee and all staff that have helped us through this. I will now adjourn the meeting at 10:18 a.m. We shall see all of you at 1 o'clock, I guess, for public planning meeting. Barb, you had a point there? Nope. All right. We'll see you all in a couple hours. Take care.